Your path is unique, you know? I mean, Sioux Falls, I sat with you at Indiana and covered some of your teams when you were the offensive coordinator at Indiana. You go to Fresno, obviously your success at Washington. Let me go back to that time. You know, the last time we sat together was when you were a coordinator at Indiana with a young quarterback named Michael Penix that no one knew anything about, you know? And if I told that guy that day, hey, in 5 years, you're going to take over for Nick Saban at the University of Alabama, what would you have said?
I would have been really surprised, you know, that obviously things worked out in a special way. But I'd also know that anything is possible. And it really wouldn't have been about reaching that goal if you'd have told me if you do this, this, and this. It'd have been just about pouring everything into the moments you're in at that time. So, yeah, it would have been a little bit crazy if you'd have said that, but I also know that anything's possible. And I learned that way back being at the University of Sioux Falls, where a place like that really had no business at one point winning national championships, even at the small college level, and doing that and happening over and over and over again there. And so anything's possible. You know, I'm just, you know, I am very blessed to certainly be in this spot, and a lot of great things have fell into place. I've been around a lot of great people.
I imagine if you set out, if we're sitting there and that was your goal that day, and that's at the forefront of your mind, and you're not where your feet are, to take an old, you know, Coach Sabanism, if you will, then this probably doesn't work out. But if you're just pouring into the now every single day, trying to make Indiana's offense the best it can possibly be on that Tuesday, or whatever day it may be, same with Fresno, same with Sioux Falls, same with Washington, this doesn't happen.
I completely agree. I think when you start pressing and, you know, you see this players, but especially coaches throughout the 20 plus years I've been doing this, when they start thinking about what's next and how their career path right now isn't in line with other people they compare themselves to, or it's gone the wrong way for a year or two, you know, that stress level just, you know, they're not enjoying the job. And when you're enjoying the job, that's when you do your best work.
Sure.
And, you know, just things fall into place because, you know, your best work is going to lead to success. So I completely agree with that comment.
How about the craziness of post-national championship game? So you have an incredible season at Washington, incredible season, you know, culminating in 2 undefeated teams facing off in the I mean, it was a great game, you know, and they outlasted you guys and win the national championship. You're coming off of that, and it is January 8th. January 10th, Nick Saban, who I believe is the greatest college football coach in the history of our sport, steps away. And it's just like, I mean, like college football, it's the biggest domino there is in our sport in a coaching sense. You know that. By January 12th, you're the head coach here.
Yeah.
Can you start with the day after the national championship game? What was your reaction when Coach Saban retired, and how quickly did this become a possibility?
Well, I think, you know, we stayed overnight after the championship, and the next day was a travel day, and there's some of these guys that were making their final decisions on that team with whether they're going to move on to the NFL. And so that communication's happening, and you wake up and you got a sick feeling in your stomach just because you came up short. And you wanted the dreams and goals that we all had and the work that had been put in to be realized in the national championship. And so, you know, you're licking your wounds a little bit, working on the next season. And then, you know, I just remember that morning, Wednesday, you know, that the 8th, or that'd been the 10th, just realizing like, hey, not like you're feeling sorry for yourself, but you're just like, get up and let's go attack the day and let's make this happen. I mean, I specifically remember that. And so a lot of meetings with our players that morning, early afternoon, you know, and that's kind of what that routine was. And of course, the news with Coach Saban hitting, and just, I think, you know, I knew nothing at that time and whether it'd be approached, but I just knew that there's always the names that get thrown out there.
Sure.
And that would be a distraction to Washington and the team I was trying to continue to put together. And, you know, you're already, you know, mid-January by that time. So that was what was in my mind. And of course, then by late that night, you know, the opportunity put in front of you to talk to Greg Byrne, and just really the next 48 hours, just being about that, an interview, and then the opportunity to actually be the head coach, and all the emotions that go along with the decision, and then having to talk to everyone there at Washington, and then get down here quick and be in this very room to talk to the team, which had been going through a lot of things on their own, and so there's a lot of emotions. Probably the one thing that I just wish really could have happened there is that you have a chance to celebrate what was an amazing season, and things got flipped so quickly. Unfortunately, the players in particular, but also the fan base, just really not being able to celebrate all the success that had gone into that season, or even the previous two combined.
Sure. I can tell you, like, on the 10th, I remember recording a show right when we heard the news of Coach stepping away. And immediately I thought, all right, if I'm Greg Byrne, there's 3 names on the list, and that's it. And I did a whole show. You can go back and watch it, all you subscribers on YouTube. You were one of those 3 names. And I said on that show, I think Alabama's going to work quickly, and I think Kalen DeBoer is going to be the head coach. And I believed that, very much so. No insight. We hadn't texted. Mm-hmm. I didn't text Greg. Yeah. That sentiment was born out of the truth that you know how to win. Bear with me for a moment. I believe in what Tiger Woods always talks about. And I watched a documentary. I'm anytime anything on, whether it's Muhammad Ali or Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods, I'm watching it, right? Mm-hmm. This is what I want. Yeah. And he talked about, yes, it was important to be technically proficient at the game of golf, but it was also equally important to be competitively proficient at the game of golf and learn how to win at a young age, which he did to a mark that no one's ever seen. And then that carried over, and now he's obviously who he is, and the greatest golfer of all time. Well, to some extent, I know this is going to sound weird, but you have that type of Tiger Woods winning track record throughout your career. You're 104-12 as a head coach. No one else touches that. So even though you're following the guy, do you have a level of confidence that you know how to win regardless of where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate all those comments and that confidence that you have, and then others obviously have had to bring me here, and the other places I've been as well. But I do. I just think that it's, and I don't mean that, and I mean hopefully it doesn't come across in an arrogant way. It's just you just know that if you pour everything you got into the right things and the right people, and you have the right support around you, that it can be done. And I've been at great places. All those places that have led to that record have been great places with great support, great people, and of course players who you bring in that just want to do something together. And that's what this is all about. That's what Alabama's all about. And Greg Byrne, showing me that vision, showing me how it's been done, and seeing that this can continue on. And this place, Coach Saban's built it up to be something, again, just like many others before him, to where it's greater than one person. And his face and the legacy he leaves, and being the best of the best, will certainly live on forever. But he's built this place up to be bigger than one person. And, coming in, I'm very careful with that task, with that responsibility. I understand it. And, you're paying attention to all the cues and why things were the way they were, and this decision, and why this routine and schedule was in place. You're paying attention to all that.
Because it was thought about.
There's a reason.
There's a reason, I promise you.
There's a reason. And so, that's what I'm certainly, with my experiences and have been through, I feel confident that, they aren't going to be perfect. No one is. But that we can take those experiences and continue to build here. I think one thing with that, in between being a head coach and a head coach, there was 10 years where I was with great other head coaches. Yeah. And I think
having wild success as a coordinator, which I touched on, at Indiana.
And they all did it different ways. They all did it their ways. They had their strengths, and just taking all that in and kind of adding what fit me and my identity, my way of doing things, ways to make things better. That was really invaluable to, kind of these last 4 or 5 years.
Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel, and you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.